Warfare played a huge role in Aztec society and was the primary driver of the empire's expansion. Military service was mandatory, and both commoners and nobles alike would take to the battlefield. All Aztec boys would train in school before being recruited into the army and advancing up the ranks. Today, we'll be taking a look at what it took to rise to the top. A brief set of disclaimers before we begin. The information presented here specifically applies to the rank and command structure for the Aztecs of the capital at Tenochtitlan, a people known as the Mexica. As such, this information isn't necessarily applicable to the militaries of other cities of the Triple Alliance or Mesoamerica in general. Secondly, much of the information presented comes from a small selection of surviving documents which represent only a tiny cross-section of the full complexity of the Aztec military and which sometimes contain contradictory information. As a result, this video should be taken as a general guide only based on one potential synthesis of multiple sources. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. Joining the army. All males would be put through the Aztec education system in their early teens. Here they would be taught discipline, courage, and martial skill. Students who prove themselves physically and mentally would be recommended for recruitment by their schoolmaster. Their first role in the army would be to serve as a porter. This was a humble but essential role, as beasts of burden were not present in Mesoamerica and supplies had to be transported by hand. Youths serving as porters would typically be apprenticed to an older member of the army, often from their own school. The porter would follow along with the army on campaign, helping to carry the soldier's personal kit and supplies for the camp. The older soldier would in return protect and tutor the younger ward. Parents would offer gifts to solicit the help of more experienced warriors. Nobles here had the advantage of great wealth and connections to ensure that their sons got the best trainers. At this rank, porters would be dressed simply. They sported a loincloth and net bag to carry their supplies, but had no armor or other distinctive marks besides a hair tuft they grew on the back of their head called a piltontli. Novice soldier. After gaining some experience with army basics, porters would become novice soldiers around the age of 20. This meant that they would take up arms and enter the battlefield. However, at first they would likely do so as support troops who did not bear the brunt of combat on the main battle line. They would have had simple equipment, wearing a breechcloth, sandals, and a cape. Some sources state that these novices would don a standard Mesoamerican body vest known as the Itzkowitz, which was traditionally constructed of several layers of braided cotton. Likely armed with a spear, or tepos topili, they would accompany their mentor into battle, striking from relative safety at their targets while more experienced troops fought close up and hand to hand. After battles, their mentors would instruct them on how to take up the pursuit and secure captives. With some more experience, these novice soldiers would get closer to the front line, and Aztec's first few battles were extremely important in determining their advancement through the ranks. Before we proceed down the path of a theoretical military career, it's important to mention that not all Aztecs followed this route. While all men were expected to serve on campaigns, not all of them pursued it as a career. Often these individuals had other occupations as farmers or craftsmen, and thus did not advance very far. Typically, they would contribute to the fight by serving as porters or being deployed as skirmishing troops armed with slings and bows. With this in mind, let's now forge ahead. Military rank progression. Promotion past the rank of novice was tied to battlefield performance. This was primarily judged by one's ability to capture enemy soldiers who would be taken as slaves and later ritually sacrificed. Both the quantity and quality of prisoners were factors. Different opponents had varying reputations for ferocity. Capturing a warrior from Tarascan lands or some high-ranking enemy was far more prestigious than capturing a warrior from Huastec lands or some common soldier. There was a rather sophisticated system in place to institutionalize this practice. With each rank came additional special clothing, weapons, armor, and hairstyles, which were instantly recognizable in Aztec society. Additional rewards for performing great deeds in battle would include land grants, special rights, and gifts. With these concepts in place, let's now take a look at the progression system for a warrior in the Aztec army. An individual would remain in the novice rank until they progressed by taking at least one captive. Those who failed to take any captives after 3 to 4 campaigns would be viewed with disgrace. This would be made obvious to observers as they still bore the piltontli hair tuft. Should they persist in their failure, these warriors would also have their hair plastered with feathers or be entirely shaven. Most, however, had better luck. A soldier who took their first captive was called a leading youth. This important milestone was marked for all to see by the cutting of the piltontli hair tuft, and being gifted a flower-patterned mantle as well as a pair of scarlet and multicolored breechcloths. Now, the warrior would also be allowed to carry a simple makwawit and a shield or chimali without any decorations. A soldier with 2 captives was rewarded with an orange mantle with a red trim, and from this point on in battle was able to wear a tlahuitzli, a full-body suit made of cotton with sewn feathers of varying colors to form patterns. The 2 captive soldiers' tlahuitzli was Huaxtecat styled, meaning that it was derived from the Huaxtec people and was usually distinguished by having black marks called hawk scratches, a conical hat, and a nose ring. A soldier with 3 captives was elevated to the rank of Teacher of Youth or Master of Youths, depending on the translation. As such, they were given permission to educate others at school. They would be gifted with a conch shell patterned mantle. In addition, on their backs, they would wear an ornament often in the shape of a butterfly. A soldier with 4 captives was now considered a veteran warrior and became a ruler of youths or instructor of youths, again depending on the translation. As such, they were eligible to become the head of a school. They now were gifted a mantle of black and orange stripes with a trim pattern. Soldiers of this rank adopted the temalot style, with their hair raised atop their head in 2 sections wrapped in a red cord, and were allowed to wear a Jaguar patterned tlahuitzli and helmet. Their weapons and armor would also bear additional ornamentation. Further advancement was more restrictive and focused more so on the quality rather than quantity of captured opponents. Taking any additional soldiers from most enemy states would simply promote one to leader of youths, which was the highest position at schools but otherwise conferred no benefits. However, a 5th captive taken from a prestigious enemy would allow one to become a great captain and be awarded many gifts, including richly ornamented headbands, labrettes, earplugs, and capes. At this point, I want to note that according to one source, a parallel rank advancement track did exist for Aztec priests who participated in battle. What role they performed in battles, though, is unknown, but as with normal soldiers, they progressed in accordance with the amount of enemy soldiers they captured, as seen in this page from the Codex Mendoza. Noble Orders. In addition to normal military ranks, there were several prestigious military fraternities a veteran soldier could enter once they had taken 5 to 6 captives. These included the Eagle, Jaguar, Otomi, and the Shorn Ones. All would have their own barracks at the royal palace, and the members would be full-time soldiers. While normally open only to nobility, commoners could be awarded the status of honorary noble by performing exceptional deeds in combat, and were able to enter the Eagle and Jaguar orders, though this opportunity would be restricted as time went on. The Eagles and Jaguars were the largest of the military fraternities. They wore full-body suits and helmets styled after their animal namesakes. These troops were expected to do much of the heavy-duty fighting and were thus well equipped with sturdy shields and makwawit. Outside the battlefield, they enjoyed a high status in society. They had the privilege of wearing fine jewelry and costumes in public, were allowed to keep mistresses, and were given tax-free land grants which could be passed on to their heirs. The Otomi order was an even more elite group. Members are believed to have fought in their own units and would have been housed within the emperor's palace. These individuals were given a full bodysuit of green, red, or blue color with a back banner meant to symbolize their heroism. They carried a beautifully crafted makwawit and a shield featuring a variety of designs, while their hair was bound atop their head with a red tassel. Entry into the most prestigious order would require many high-ranking captives and a record of more than 20 great deeds. Making it this far was only possible for those who had become lifers in the army and were masters of war. These fierce warriors were known as Kwashikwe, the Shorn Ones. They shaved the sides of their heads, painting one half blue and the other yellow or red, but leaving a distinctive mohawk or braid in the center. The soldiers wore either a yellow bodysuit or might be naked aside from a breechcloth. They fought in pairs and were expected to never retreat in battle or be done in by their comrades. Unlike other ranks and military orders, they did not teach at schools, so as to stay active combatants. Leadership. Thus far we have covered the hierarchy of rank-and-file troops and will now be turning to the leadership structure. At the very top would be the king, or Tlatoani. He often led campaigns and participated in battles. Such rulers would wear whatever they pleased. This might include an exclusive war suit with the attire and regalia of the god Zapotec, or other popular feathered tunics and skirts exclusively worn by Mexica royalty, high nobility, and top commanding military offices. Just below the king was his war council. Chief among them in authority was the master of the House of Darts. He wore a white tlahuitzli and a helmet fashioned after skeletal demons. Other members of the council included the master of the House of Darkness and various rotating positions, such as the cutter of men. While some sources say it was possible to reach these ranks by capturing a sixth reputable captive as a great captain, in practice, these positions were often occupied by members of the royal family. Below the War Council were a variety of other high-ranking command positions and special titles. These would control the large units in the Aztec military, while also serving administrative or judicial roles in Tenochtitlan's government. Further down were the various officers and captains who controlled the smaller units in the army. They are believed to have been drawn from the higher-ranking veterans we previously discussed. Unfortunately, the exact nature of these leadership roles is heavily contradicted between sources, and we don't have a complete and consistent picture of how they operated or were equipped. For now, this is where we will leave things. I hope that through this video we've been able to demonstrate the high level of organization present in the Aztec army. I find this level of nuance absolutely fascinating to examine, and am saddened by mainstream portrayals of the Mesoamericans as primitive bands of jungle raiders. This does a huge disservice to their sophisticated societies. It also bears keeping in mind that this video focused on the system of just one city, with other Aztec cities and the cities of foreign kingdoms and empires all having their own comparably complex systems. Even those who are cognizant of how the Aztecs were a far more complex empire often forget that Mesoamerica as a whole was filled with a vast array of city-states and empires, and not just tribes. We hope you enjoyed, and be sure to stay tuned for more videos on Aztec warfare. If you found this topic interesting, check out these related videos about our fascinating past. Be sure to like and subscribe for more history, and check out our description for ways to support the channel. Thanks for watching.